Vince McMahon. Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Alleged lawsuit for human trafficking against a former employee. Now, we have to say it's no secret that Vince McMahon has had affairs behind Linda McMahon's back. Or Linda probably knew about it and she didn't care for it. But, well, actually, they're actually separated. But Vince McMahon, this latest lawsuit, we all know he probably slept with many women throughout him being his owner is WWF, WWE. But this is just beyond evil and disgusting. It's pathetic. It's evil. And he needs to go in jail for the rest of his life. Actually, you know what? He's 78 years old. He has no hobbies, no other interests besides working out and pro wrestling. If he's not involved with wrestling, he's not involved, he would never be involved with wrestling again, especially in WWE again. Within a year to 2 years, he will pass on. That's why since he when he resigned, when this all leaked out first in the summer 2022 about him paying $15 to $20 million in hush money to several women, and this is just one of them that came forward with the alleged details. He came back in January 2023, just 6 months, because he couldn't stay home and not do nothing and be part of wrestling. He can't, just like Triple H said in his Vince McMahon DVD that was released in 2006. He can't enjoy his success. He can't just, with this money, just enjoy himself, travel, play golf, read, try to find himself, do charity work, try to help the world. No, he's always got to be part of wrestling. That's all he's known. That's all he's ever loved, besides that and bodybuilding. But, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand, I don't care if he pulled a Tiger Woods, if he had an affair with 10 or 20 to 30 women. But the fact is, he pimped out this girl to John Laurinaitis. Alright? He fucked her against her will. Basically, she was like a slave. She was a slave. Like a sex slave. He took a shit on her head during a threesome. And of course, some seniors, they probably do that by accident, especially doing sex, but apparently he still kept it going and told her, he just kept the threesome kept going, didn't stop and try to, wipe her face like a normal human being, take care of her for the accident, or maybe it was on purpose. She is scarred for life. We don't know, especially if you listen to Jim Cornette's podcast. It's a lot confusing when it's all read from the Wall Street Journal. We thought this girl was in her late 40s. Now apparently she's in her early 20s. She is scarred for life. She needs therapy for years. It's not going to be just a couple sessions within a year. She's got to be in therapy for a couple years to get over this. He pimped her out with John Laurinaitis. He showed pictures of her to several employees. Apparently with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was supposed to come in the Royal Rumble, but he didn't come back. She made some kind of a video where she's paying for him. She probably fucked him too. Vince McMahon, what goes around comes around. Let me tell you something about Vince McMahon. I would always love him for what he's done for the pro wrestling business. Always gonna love. Without him, the WWF, WWE, WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, The Undertaker, wrestling would not be as big as it is today. From '85, from WrestleMania to now, he brought wrestling to mainstream, into pop culture with Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, and putting on MTV, WrestleMania, and the rest is I could go into more into detail about the history, but you guys know. You guys know. I'll talk about it in another video. This is about Vince. The first thing he's ever done, he's done a lot of things. He's responsible for over 40 wrestlers' deaths. Had them taking steroids, being on drugs. Especially the thing with with Eddie Guerrero in '05 a heart attack. He established a substance abuse policy. Make sure they get tested. But there's always ways around it. First thing, he covered Jimmy Superfly Snuka's girlfriend's murder. Before he passed away, he was charged with the murder of his girlfriend, murdering his Italian girlfriend in the 80s. Vince McMahon. And basically, if you watch the Jimmy Snuka and wrestling Dark Side of the Ring, the sister of the girlfriend, she said she got a call from Vince McMahon. He offered her about $25,000 to like not talk about us anymore, just like as a payoff. Vince McMahon, and also he talked with the police. He somehow covered Jimmy Snuka's girlfriend's murder, and the police, the detectives in the 80s, they turned a blind eye and they let it go. It wasn't until he reported in 2016 or 2010 to 2015 did a report, and Jimmy Snuka was rightfully charged with the murder of his girlfriend. It wasn't an accident, and right before he died, Jimmy Snuka's before he died, I'm not sure the trial they found him guilty, but he was on the verge. If they didn't find him guilty before he died, he was on the verge to be found guilty. But I think if something about, if you read about it, ladies and gentlemen, they decided, he was about to, like, mentally, he's incapable. He's like, his dementia, and he's on his way. He's what's the word called again when we're about to die of cancer? It's he's terminal or something like that. So Vince McMahon, he covered Jimmy Snuka's girlfriend's murder. He covered Jimmy Snuka. He covered Jimmy Snuka's he covered Jimmy Snuka burning his girlfriend. The whole thing with with Pat Patterson. Pat Patterson did some sexual harassment as a young boy, setting up the ring crew. He got rid of Pat Patterson, and then when the whole scandal was done, he brought him back. It's not Vince Russo, it's Vince McMahon who should be mostly responsible for Owen Hart's tragic accident in May 1999 when he was supposed to be lowered down to the ring. The reason why he was lowered down to the ring, for the people that don't remember, he basically had Owen Hart. He punished Owen Hart because he didn't want to be in a love triangle relationship with Deborah and Jeff Jarrett. Out of respect to his kids and his wife, Owen Hart. He's a family man. People love him. He didn't want to do things to make his family uncomfortable. That shows kind of human being Owen Hart was. Owen Hart was punished being a blue blazer, and his gimmick was supposed to be lowered down to the ring and go get into the ring and trip. Getting into the ring is supposed to be to make fun of Sting's getting lowered down entrance in WCW. It's to make fun of Sting's entrance in WCW. And Owen Hart tragically passed, and Vince McMahon is responsible for that. It's not. You can't really blame Vince Russo, although you could probably blame the cable company, the cable crew, for not having it properly strong enough for to hold Owen Hart. He was about 220 to 240 pounds. But to me, he's responsible. He should have never done that. If Owen Hart didn't want to do it, if he's uncomfortable with heights, Vince McMahon's responsible. And thanks to insurance, that $20 million he paid off his widow, Martha Hart, is from his insurance. Okay? What he did to Bret, he liked to Bret Hart about the Monster Screw Job, but he's done a lot of worse things. I know the Monster Screw Job, what he did to Bret was despicable, but also, I'm starting to see his side, you have to, respect the business and drop the belt. I can see Vince McMahon's side now. I can see mostly with Bret, but I can see Vince's side on that now. But with Eddie Guerrero, he did a lot of Crash, Holly, Eddie Guerrero. Test is 2009. Big Boss Man, Kurt Hennig, 03. A lot of deaths were under his watch. Some of them were still wrestling under Vince, and some died after wrestling. They died after wrestling for Vince. They died after wrestling for Vince. They're no part of WWE anymore. Eddie Guerrero in 05. that ridiculous Rhodes, not having an off season. It's ridiculous. 365 days, 52 weeks a year. They only have time off when they're injured. The Chris Benoit strategy, what a disgrace. Okay, what a disgrace how he handled that. He, if you guys don't know, I recommend watching Dark Side of the Ring with the Chris Benoit strategy. It's basically Chris Benoit. This is a little off topic. The reason why Chris Benoit killed himself and his wife and his son is because he wanted to be with Eddie. I think Chris Benoit from the time Eddie Guerrero died in November 2005 until June 2007, as Chris Benoit did a horrific, the worst tragedy in pro wrestling history. He was depressed after losing Eddie. And I think you can't really blame steroids, but in a 3-day span, you can't really blame steroids. Mentally, concussions and depression he felt. Especially this is the theory, it's a theory from watching Dark Side of the Ring, the Chris Benoit thing, the two-parter. Chris Benoit killed his wife. I think he killed his wife Nancy first and his son. Then on Sunday, the last day, and then the weekend, he killed himself. And remember, of course, Chris has a son with his second wife, Nancy. Is it Daniel? I think so. He has a son with Daniel, right? But he has 2 kids with his first wife, and I believe his oldest son David that looks a lot like him. Chris still has 2 kids, especially his son David, and they never reach out to Chris Benoit's 2 kids. They want nothing to do with him. Vince has turned a blind eye. Despicable. Chris Jericho and Chavo's the only one that reach out to Chris Benoit's son and their family. What a disgrace. Vince doesn't care. Yeah, I mean, also too, the whole storyline. There's one storyline when right after Eddie Guerrero died. He said, I think even Conan talked about it. I forgot what the storyline was. I think it was with Ray. You're gonna go to hell. Like we all know where Eddie is. He's in hell. What a disgrace! And having Vic Guerrero make out with a lot of guys. But anyways, this McMahon, he deserves this. He is now when it comes to Vince McMahon's legacy, everyone's always gonna think about Vince McMahon being a human sex trafficker, making a girl be a sex slave, and they're going to be discussing. They're always going to think of him taking a shit on a girl's head during the threesome. Vince McMahon, you are a piece of shit. Thank you for what you've done for pro wrestling. I've been to at least 30 to 40 pro wrestling shows. Been to several pay-per-views. I've been to three WrestleManias. But I've never seen Vince McMahon live in person. I always want to see Vince in person, but now I don't care to see him in person. I don't want him to see him in person. He's probably never going to be in WWE again. Never say never. He might somehow, if he settles, he might be back even to make an appearance, but who knows? Maybe never say never, but